Good morning. Welcome. My name is RJ Summerlin, the Silly Sci Guy, and this is the first episode of my new podcast that I'm going to start. That's going to focus on MMA here, and I'm mainly going to focus on the local MMA scene. I feel as if there's so many podcasts and outlets that cover the major leagues, in which I will still cover. I would love to go over UFC fights, both previews and reviews, Bellator, PFL, major boxing shows. But I'm really going to want to get into the meat of the local MMA scene and what we have going on here locally in the panhandle. And I will do my best to cover fights from, island fights to the Southeastern Championships, to Empire, whatever I can do, I will watch and do my best to report, relay, and give you my thoughts and feelings on it. And this podcast, I'm going to name it In the Neutral Corner. So, hey guys, and welcome. You're in the Neutral Corner. And so we just had an Island Fights last weekend, a week ago today. And to be honest with you, man, they were banging. Island Fights has really upped their product in the last few years tremendously. Used to be, whenever I was a former amateur and when I was coming up, it used to be 17 fights, and half the guys that fought didn't even know how to fight. Half the guys that showed up were just like, hey man, I used to do this, and I fought on the street like 30 times. I'm undefeated, and I see red when I go mad, so I would be great to go in there and do this. But now, the Island Fights administration, or however you want to say it, the matchmakers, everything, so much better. I mean, the matches are borderline. I mean, they're borderline professional matches sometimes. Of course, they're still amateurs and they're still doing the 3-3s, but the technique, the way they carry themselves, and sometimes the action, the heart, and the grit is just as compelling as watching a professional fight. Especially when you're local and the guys fighting, so then it makes it even more exciting. There's a team I've trained with on and off that's located out of Milton, Team Remedy, and they had quite a few fighters fight on that card last weekend, and did tremendous, man. It's just a great gym. Quite a few other fighters from great gyms did well. Just a tremendous card. There wasn't many stoppages on that card. So even the fighters that lost, not that if you get stopped it means anything less about you as a fighter. However, even the fighters that lost, they put it up, they fought tooth and nail, and there was heart and grit. And, I was really proud to be a part of it. For those of you who don't know me, for those of you who have never heard of me, and for those of you who are wondering, what is this guy talking about? Why is this guy doing whatever? I've been in the game of mixed martial arts for going on, 2023? So going on for 11 years now. I've cut my teeth in the game. I've done some stupid matchups, some great matchups. I've fought as an amateur. I've fought as a pro. I've fought in pro MMA, pro boxing, pro bare knuckle fighting. I've done everything just about that I can do. Power slap is not in my sights at all, though, so y'all can go ahead and cut that out. But I've done quite a few different styles of combat sports. I have, consumed endless amounts of combat sports fights, media knowledge, etc., etc. I've gotten to train with some of the best in the world. I've gotten to train with Duke Rufus, Anthony Pettis, Paul Felder, and those guys up there at Rufus Sport many years ago. I've gotten to train. I've gotten to actually be trained and coached by the GOAT himself, Roy Jones Jr., for about 3 years, in which I did a professional boxing career after a knee injury I had. And so I have been blessed to be around some really great people, and the people that I met when I was around Roy really is priceless. I couldn't even put a price tag on the experience and the knowledge I gained just from the people that Roy brought in. Former world champion Devin Alexander, Chris Eubanks Jr. I've gotten to meet all sorts of guys like that, and it does nothing but add another tool in your toolbox, whether you use it right away or not. I do want to give a big shout out to my homie Cam Bennett. Obviously, he's not listening to this now because this is the first podcast ever for me. But we are really pro Cam Bennett in the neutral corner. And, man, he took a layoff, and I believe it was a year, maybe a little longer. And his last fight before that, he did a great job. He just came up short, as you do sometimes in MMA. But he really stepped it up. He was a completely different animal in that fight last night. And in my opinion, the best fighter of the night. Just looked phenomenal. Just looked absolutely phenomenal. Killer instinct. And then just the nicest guy that you could ever meet right afterwards. So I'm very excited for what the future holds. And of course, if you are paying attention here locally, they did just announce a huge card coming up April 1st in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Dean Toole and the powers that be that deal with Island Fights also are the matchmakers and administrators for Game Bred Boxing. And Game Bred Boxing is putting on an event, like I said, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on the 1st of April. And, hey, man, the main event, huge. You're going to have the former UFC lightweight champion, former Wheaties box cover star. His name is Anthony Showtime Pettis, and he will be taking an 8-round professional boxing match against the GOAT, Roy Jones Jr. And, it's really funny because those who don't know anything about combat sports, or those who took a boxing class or two when they were 17 and think they know everything but never pursued it past that, they don't understand that, hey, man, Roy may be in his 50s. Yeah, the man is still dangerous. The man has been doing boxing. He has been doing that since he was in diapers. He has forgotten more than even a world champion like Anthony Pettis will ever know as far as in the sport of boxing. So that's going to be a very interesting matchup because I feel like Roy will still have that Roy power, okay? Because power usually is the last thing to leave whenever you are in, whenever you are aging as a fighter. Your power is usually the last thing to leave. It's usually your speed, your quickness, your reaction time. Those things leave you first. And while those things may have definitely left Roy because inevitably, you're getting older, they're still way better than the regular guy. And I think that the problem with fighting is that people remember you in the heyday. They remember you when you were murdering everybody and you were as fast as a pistol. But you slow down just a hair and you're not as good as you once were, even if you're still very good. People are really quick to put you on the back burner, which is very sad. It makes me sad, but yeah, that's a very exciting matchup. And then right underneath that matchup, you got Vitor Belfort boxing in a 6-round professional boxing match, Jacare Souza, which is crazy. Vitor's got powerful hands. Jacare's a grappler, but he developed power in his hands over the course of his career. And that'll be a great matchup. I'm more excited for the matchup that was announced after that, which is Jose Aldo versus Jeremy Stephens. These guys fought once before in the UFC, in which Aldo caught Stephens with a nasty left hook to the body that, just folded him down. And Jeremy Stephens is just tough as nails. And it'll be interesting to see these MMA guys, MMA world champions, it'll be interesting to see them box, strictly boxing, against another guy that was an MMA fighter, and again, strictly boxing. So it'll be interesting to see their movements and how it goes. And, part of me feels like fighting another MMA guy in a boxing match, I don't really feel like anybody's going to have the advantage as far as like cardio, because they're both going to be used to the MMA style of striking. And I would be completely shocked if one of them came out and looked like a boxer. For those of you who don't know, there's slight differences. There is a slight difference in being a professional boxer in that stance, and the way you deliver your punches, and in the way you block punches, the way you expect punches to come and go. And then in MMA, same. The distance is different. Your power is different. Everything's different. People like to compare the two sports, but they are, in fact, two different sports. So that'll be really interesting. Then we have our second local big guy from Pensacola, Dylan Bad Boy Kleckler, friend of mine. Super, super happy for him. And he's fighting this trash mouth Josh Burns, who has done nothing but talk. Well, now it is time for the talk to stop, and it's time to put your money where your mouth is. And that will be an interesting matchup, because even though Josh Burns is just talking all this trash, spewing all of this venom out for no reason other than just trying to hype it and get in Dylan's head, Dylan's not a trash talker very much. Dylan's just going to tell him that like it is. Look, man, we're going to go in there, we're going to fight, and someone's getting knocked out. Dylan Kleckler is an exciting fighter to watch. He was his MMA record's like 11-1 or 12-1. He knocks everybody out, or he gets knocked out. It's which again, I only think he's only lost twice. He lost once in MMA, he lost one in bare knuckle boxing. Hey man, we all lose sometimes. We all can't be world beaters. We all can't be John Jones. We all can't be Khabib Nurmagomedov. If we all could, then how would they be outliers, right? But Kleckler's got ungodly power. He's got great patience, and he's got the heart of a warrior. And I am with Dylan. I am Team Kleck all the way. And I think he's going to put Josh Burns down. And I think that it's going to be a very exciting matchup. But I think Dylan's just the type of person to, once he hits you a couple times, these guys they're just not going to want to be there anymore. And that's just in my opinion, that's just the way that's going to go. So my predictions are Roy, my predictions are Aldo, my predictions are Belfort, and then of course Bad Boy Dylan Kleckler. Then we have 12-0 Devin Cushing going up there to Milwaukee to fight another very experienced opponent. Devin's on the come up. He's going to be the next best thing to come out of here at 130 lightweight for boxing. And my man's 12-0. He's as fast as a whip. His jab cracks. He's got the best jab in boxing, other than your host here talking. But no, really, Devin's got the best jab in Pensacola. He'll have the best jab in boxing. He's going to bring that jab back. And he's a fast southpaw. He's super accurate. He's very aggressive, but he's tactical with his aggressiveness. So he is constantly coming at you, but he's never out of position. He's very fun to watch, especially his last few fights. He took a little bit of a layoff. He took some time with his family. He took some time, got his mind right. And not that his mind was wrong before, but sometimes you need to take a step back. Even if you're winning all the time, sometimes you got to take a step back, assess the situation, assess how you feel, assess the way that things are, and then, replan, reconfigure, readjust. And I feel like that's what he's done. I've been ringside for the last two of his pro bouts, and my man's looked phenomenal. I mean, he has looked absolutely tremendous. Fucking dude, the punches that he's slinging on these people they sound so mean. Like, as a professional fighter myself, to sit there ringside and listen to the way this guy's punching this dude, I'm like, gosh, man, can we just not be that mean? It's great. It really is great. It's so fun to see over the years that I've been a part of it. And, I really have only been a part of it for 11 years, and the fight game has been going on in this area for far more than that, at least 20 years now. But I would go, maybe 15, but yeah, and just exponentially changing, and it for the better. Better shows, better quality, better matchups, better athletes, smarter athletes, better gyms. Man, I'm just so excited for what the future holds for this, in this area. And then, of course, next month, is it like March 11th, I think it is, we have our local first ever UFC fighter from Pensacola, Florida. He's coming down, or he's going over to Las Vegas to fight a guy in his UFC debut, man. And SD Dumas, he has been a legend around here. He fucking was one of those guys that came up and his rocket soared like nobody's business. And the man has talent. Listen, guys, you can teach a jab. Okay? You can teach a leg kick. You can teach how to do a double leg takedown. But what you can't teach is the ability to take those and applicate those in a real world situation. So we've got a guy that comes in, tells us he wants to lose some weight. He's always like fights from Chicago or whatever. And we're like, yeah, no problem. And so we teach this kid, and he catches on like fire during the dry season. And it's like I said, it's different when you can hit it on the mitts. But then this guy goes and finds an excellent kickboxing coach, comes and just, man, what a way to start his career. Everything you teach him, he understands. That's the big thing. I can teach you, but I can't make you understand. Not the way that he understands. He understands distance. He understands timing, which are very important. But he also understands body mechanics and body movement. He knows when to throw the kick because your leg's loaded, or when not to throw the kick. He knows when to feint the kick so you load the leg in reaction to it. It's very impressive to watch him fight, and it's very impressive to spar with him. It's very impressive to train and grapple with him. So I'm super excited to see where his future goes and what happens there. He's quick as a whip right now, and he's gonna, in my opinion, he's gonna be a force to be reckoned with. It's gonna be a while before they can find anybody that can stop that guy. He takes out your leg and you're done. So yeah, well, speaking of the UFC, this weekend is a huge fight. My number one pick, pound for pound, my favorite current fighter on the active roster. He's honestly probably one of my favorites of all time. Alexander Volkanovski is moving up in weight to fight the newly crowned lightweight champion, Islam Makhachev, who is he's ranked number 2 on the pound for pound list. Now, this is just my opinion. I think that it's a little premature to put that man on the pound for pound list. I get he's Khabib's like protege, and I get that he's like Khabib 2.0 and et cetera. But the strength, think about it like when people used to, do you remember back in the BCS Bowl days for the national national championship for college football, right? Do you remember that? Like, if you had like 4 undefeated teams at the end of the season, they were all champs. They basically determined who was number 1, number 2 on strength of schedule, right? They used to determine things on the strength of the schedule, the strength of the opponents that you have faced prior to the meeting now. And every fighter in the UFC is a UFC caliber fighter, so of course he belongs where he belongs. However, you got to think about what big names other than Charles Oliveira and then Drew Dober. It's not even really that big of a name. He is on a win streak now, and he is an exciting guy to watch fight. But those are like the 2 biggest names that I can think of. However, Volkanovski, there's a list. There's a list of top tier champions, former champions that he's put away, that he's made look as if they don't belong in the same cage as he does. And he's beat the Ortegas, he's beat the Holloways, he's beat the Aldos, he's beat everybody. And Not only that, he was on a win streak coming up through the featherweight division in which he was beating everybody. Chad Mendez, everybody. And making it look routine. I won't say easy, but making it look routine, okay? And so he's my pick, man. I think that... So Volkanovski's assessment the day before yesterday or something like that was that he does not think that Makhachev takes unnecessary risks. But then when I'm watching his highlight reel, I'm seeing sometimes the guy gets a little more excited than he should. And what I mean by that is sometimes in some of these fights and reels, people are sweeping him. People are able to get up. People are able to put him in a bad position. Not for very long, for sure, but still. They're able to capitalize on some things, not because of his lack of technique, but simply because it looks like he's just a more aggressive grappler. Khabib, I never saw Khabib get sweeped. I never saw Khabib put on his back or anything like that, diving on a submission that wasn't there or anything like that. And Khabib was very methodical and meticulous about what he was doing, why he was doing it, and when he was doing it. And I think that Makhachev is just kind of, a little rougher around the edges than Khabib is and was. So, but anyways, look, I'm going to cut it short there for the first episode. It's 21 minutes. I did this on the way to work, so I am looking forward to doing this more and in a more controlled setting with cleaner audio. I'm looking forward to having guests. I'm looking forward to going more in depth on topics, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys, and hopefully I can get some viewers, and hopefully I can get some people interested in, thank you for listening, and thank you for coming to the Neutral Corner. Godspeed.